graph the inverse when given the graph of a line. Okay, so we need to find the inverse of this line. And before we can find the inverse, we should find the slope-intercept form of the original line. Okay? So this line crosses the y-axis at 0, therefore the y-intercept is 0. So we got to remember that. Y-intercept is 0. Okay? And notice I have two distinct points here and here that are really easy to read. So that tells me that the run right here is 1 and the rise is 3. Okay? Hopefully these sound familiar because you need to know the slope, and the slope is generally calculated using the rise over the run. Okay? So here's the general form of the slope-intercept form of a graph. Okay? So I substituted here, so 3 was my rise right here. My run was 1. And I put the 0 here because the y-intercept was 0. Okay, so here is the equation for this line. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and simplify it a little bit, so it's y equals 3x. Getting rid of this because plus 0 is the same thing, and 3 over 1 is the same as 3. So here's a more simplified form. Now we need to rewrite the exact same equation, but switch the x and the y. Okay, so now we get this. X equals 3y. You see that? I just switched the letters. Everything else, exact same thing. And now we need to solve this, the new equation, for y. Okay? Alright, so I divide both sides by 3 to get y by itself, and I get x over 3 equals y. Now, a lot of people like the y on the left side, so we can switch it like that. Okay, now this looks a lot more like this form here. Okay, now we simply need to graph this new equation, which is the inverse of our given one. Okay? So, there's nothing here, there's no y-intercept, therefore the y-intercept is 0. So that's going to be my starting point. Okay? And remember, this x over 3 is also the same as 1 over 3. Okay? So since it's 1 over 3, that means the rise is 1 and the run is 3. Okay? So the run is 3 and the rise is 1. Okay? And that gives us our second point here. So we have our first point, our second point, 2 points. Now we can make a line. Okay? And this is the line that is the inverse to this line. And that completes our problem.